I wasn't supposed to be home until Friday evening. The annual orthopedic conference in Austin had been booked on my calendar for months. Megan and I had even talked about how she'd use the time to catch up on rest, maybe schedule some friend time. But the last day wrapped earlier than expected. So I booked a red-eye and figured I'd surprise her. We'd been missing each other lately, always passing like ships. She'd been working odd hours at the clinic, lots of emergent consults and overnight shifts. I told myself an extra day together would help us reconnect. Funny how clear hindsight becomes. The ride from the airport was quiet. Just me and the low hum of tires on I-25, the city still asleep. I remember looking forward to the smell of her morning coffee, that sleepy way she smiled when she saw me. Instead, I opened the front door and walked straight into a feeling I couldn't explain yet, but it felt like something had shifted. Even before I stepped inside, I had a hint. The smart lock lit up as I approached. Out of curiosity, I pulled up the access log on my phone. Megan and I both had app control. We'd added a guest code a few months ago when her younger cousin was visiting. That same guest code had been used this morning actually, at 10:43 a.m. Megan wouldn't use that code. She had her own access. I hadn't used it. That left someone else. Someone she'd given it to. I told myself it could be nothing. Maybe she let a contractor in for something small. But there were no appointments scheduled that I knew of. The gardener had his own gate. The cleaning crew always came Saturdays. Inside, the lights were still on in the hallway. Megan was normally strict about switching everything off. I dropped my carry-on at the front door and walked in slowly. The air smelled faintly of citrus and steam. The house wasn't messy, but it had the kind of casual disarray that didn't line up with someone expecting company. A jacket draped over the back of a dining chair. Shoes kicked off by the couch. But not Megan's things. The jacket was a men's hoodie, gray, worn. Oversized. Definitely not mine. I'd never seen it before. It had a faded logo for a local brewery I'd never been to. I stood there for a minute, just looking at it. Hood stretched like someone had pulled it over in a hurry. One sleeve slightly inside out. I didn't touch it. Then I noticed the table. 2 wine glasses, one nearly empty, the other still with a few sips left at the bottom. I knew Megan's favorite red. The darker glass had a faint ring of lipstick on the rim, her shade. The other had a smudge. No lipstick. Bigger mouth print. Probably a man's. My stomach dropped. Beside the glasses was a receipt. Folded neatly but not hidden. Boutique hotel just off Colfax. Room 212. Double occupancy. Dated the night before. A Wednesday. It even listed 2 breakfasts ordered to the room. Megan had said she worked a late shift that night. I didn't move. I didn't even take off my coat. I stood in that silence, listening to the faint hum of the HVAC and the distant drip of water in the sink. Then I heard the bathroom fan. I moved slowly down the hallway, toward the master suite. The door was open, steam still rising around the cracked bathroom door. I didn't walk in. I just leaned against the wall and waited. The water shut off. A few seconds passed. She stepped out in a robe, hair wrapped in a towel, eyes wide as soon as she saw me. "Alex!" Her voice caught. "What are you doing here?" "I got in early." She blinked rapidly. "You weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow night. Conference wrapped early. Figured I'd surprise you." She nodded too quickly. Her eyes flicked past me, toward the dining room. "You should have texted. I wanted to see your face." A pause. She adjusted the towel around her hair and gave a tight smile. "Well, welcome home. I see you had company," I said casually, nodding toward the table. Her eyes followed mine, and in that split second, I saw her mind calculating. "Oh, yeah. Jen came by. From the clinic. She needed help with the gala paperwork. We went over some vendor stuff and had a glass of wine. No big deal." "Jen left a hoodie?" Her lips pressed together. "She brought her boyfriend's jacket. Said she gets cold easily." "She wore her boyfriend's hoodie over?" "She was in a rush, Alex. I don't know. Why are you acting weird?" I didn't answer. I just let the silence stretch. She walked past me toward the table, grabbing the receipt without looking at me. "Oh, this? That's from the hotel we're booking for out-of-town guests. For the gala. I went to check it out yesterday, made sure the rooms were up to standard. That's all." "Double occupancy?" Her face hardened. "Why are you questioning me? You don't trust me now?" "I didn't say that." "Well, you're acting like I've done something wrong." I stayed quiet. I'd learned that silence unsettled her more than arguments. She walked to the kitchen, pouring the remaining wine down the sink. "You're always gone, always somewhere else. And then you come home and start picking apart my day like I'm on trial." "I didn't say anything," I repeated. "You didn't have to," she snapped, but there was a quiver in her voice. "You show up unannounced, start scanning receipts and glasses like some detective. What is this, Alex?" I looked at her and shrugged. "You tell me." She sighed, walking toward the hallway, tightening her robe. "I have to get ready for work. I thought your shift was tomorrow." She didn't answer. I stood there a long while after she went into the bedroom. My head wasn't spinning yet. Instead, it felt like something inside me had slowed to a crawl, like my brain was trying to process data it didn't want to interpret. Everything I saw told me a story I didn't want to believe. But denial doesn't erase wine glasses, or hoodies, or receipts for two. I sat down at the kitchen counter and looked around. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt familiar. I started making mental notes. The lock log, the receipt, the hoodie, the wine, the timing, Megan's deflection, her insistence that my presence was the problem, her attempt to redirect, her blaming my travel schedule. None of it was proof on its own, but it was forming a pattern. And patterns don't lie. I didn't sleep that night. Megan had gone to bed before me, claimed she had a long day tomorrow and needed to be up early for patient rounds. I waited in the living room, sitting on the edge of the couch, staring at the folded receipt still in my hand. My fingers had creased the paper in half a dozen places. I didn't know what I was hoping to uncover by staring at it for so long. A misprint? A room number that somehow proved it wasn't what it looked like? But there it was in black and white. Room 212. Check-in, 6:44 p.m. Check-out, 9:08 a.m. 2 guests. Breakfast ordered at 7:30 a.m. French toast, coffee, and 1 green smoothie. Megan's favorite. I could hear the muffled hum of the bathroom fan from down the hall. Her robe was still hanging behind the door. Her work badge sat face down on the nightstand, lanyard twisted. That used to be a comfort to me. Seeing those pieces of her daily life, the things that meant she was still here, still part of the home we built together. Now everything felt staged, planted, like props in a scene carefully arranged to maintain the illusion. I walked to the kitchen and opened the fridge. 2 takeout containers from the Thai place she liked. One half-eaten, the other untouched. Neither had my name on them. I didn't say a word, just closed the fridge again and leaned against the counter, palms flat on the cold granite. That's when the floodgates opened. Memories, not sudden, dramatic ones, but the quiet, creeping kind that start to glow under scrutiny. Moments that felt off when they happened, but I explained away. It started maybe 6 months ago, maybe longer. There was the perfume. I remember noticing it in the car one morning. Something floral, unfamiliar. When I asked about it, she smiled and said she was just trying a new scent. "Do you like it?" she'd asked. I'd nodded, not thinking much of it. She always liked trying new products. But I remember thinking, it didn't smell like her. Not like the woman I'd married. Then came the new lingerie. She never made a big deal out of it. Just started wearing it casually, without context. No date night, no occasion. Just new lace, new cuts, tags still in the trash. At the time, I thought maybe she was trying to reignite something between us. And I'd been touched by the effort. Now, felt like it wasn't meant for me at all. The gym membership. Out of nowhere. She never liked gyms. She used to say she got enough of a workout at work, running between patient rooms. But one day, she signed up at a boutique fitness place across town, yoga, strength training, the works. She started going every other evening. Always showered before coming home. always in a great mood afterward. Then there were the rideshare trips. Her car stayed in the garage more often. Parking's a pain downtown, she'd say. Or, I'm grabbing drinks, so I'm being smart. She'd wave her phone and show me the Uber receipt if I asked. But the destinations started repeating. Same general neighborhood. Not near the clinic. Not near any of her coworkers. I even remember joking once, "What's over there? A secret life?" She laughed, said it was a new tapas place she loved. She never invited me. Then came Charlie. The first few times I met him, I liked him. He was part of her department's research team, tall, sharp, kind of overly charming. The kind of guy who was always just popping by to drop off a document or a charger or a forgotten jacket. Always just in the neighborhood. He'd chat me up while Megan got her things, and I'd make small talk. He complimented everything, my cooking, the living room furniture, even my taste in craft beer. Something about it felt a little too polished, too rehearsed. But the compliments he gave Megan, those lingered. He was always noticing things. Her hair, her laugh. "God, Megan, you make even scrubs look good," he once said. Right in front of me. I remember laughing, brushing it off, but the comments stayed in my chest like a splinter. He made those comments more and more, and Megan never shut them down. She'd just smile, sometimes blush. One night, I caught her smiling at her phone a little too long. She didn't notice me walk into the kitchen. She quickly put it face down. I asked who it was. She said it was a patient follow-up. Her cheeks were flushed. It was 10:15 p.m. After that, her phone started living face down. New passcode. Notifications off. I asked about the change, casually. She said work security required it now. HIPAA stuff, she said. Can't be too careful. I believed her. Or rather, I wanted to. That's what I kept circling back to, standing in the kitchen with my fingertips resting on the marble. How many times I talked myself out of asking more. How many red flags I painted white. She started criticizing me more. Little things. You used to be more ambitious. You've gotten so comfortable lately. You always take the same route to work. None of it was overt. Just jabs, passive remarks. A slow chipping away. I didn't realize it then, but the warmth between us had cooled into something formal. Performative. Like we were roommates with memories instead of partners with a future. Still, even with all those signs, I didn't expect what came next. Around 3 a.m. I finally moved to the guest room. I didn't want to lie next to her. I didn't want to feel the warmth of her body and pretend it still meant something. The pillow smelled like her conditioner. I flipped it over. I stared at the ceiling until morning. She left before sunrise. I heard the front door close softly, keys jingling, heels clicking down the front steps. No note, no text. I went to the door a few minutes later, just to check. Her car was gone. That evening, she came home around 7. I was sitting at the dining table, laptop open, pretending to go over case files. I watched her walk in, coat over her arm, bag slung, phone still in hand. She paused when she saw me, something flickering behind her eyes. Not surprise, not guilt, even. Something more like dread. "Hey," she said, her voice soft. "Did you eat?" I shook my head. She didn't move. "Want me to make something?" "No." She stood in the doorway like she was waiting for a verdict. I saw it in her eyes, that thing people do when they know the truth has finally caught up to them. Her gaze dropped, shoulders lowered. The performance was over. She said nothing. She didn't need to. I closed the laptop. "What's his name?" I asked. A long silence. Then, "Charlie." I nodded. I already knew. "For how long?" She swallowed hard. "For months. In our home." A pause. "Sometimes," she whispered. I leaned back, letting the air stretch between us. My hands were steady. My mind wasn't. "There's more," she said quietly, like someone confessing to a priest. I didn't speak. She pulled her phone from her pocket. "He filmed some of it. I didn't know at first, but he's using it. He's threatening to share it if I stop." I sat perfectly still. I didn't want it to go this far. she added. But I felt trapped. He said if I cut things off, he'd send the videos to my clinic director. Maybe even you. My family. I stared at her for a long time. And then I said, I want a divorce. Megan didn't say anything when I told her I wanted a divorce. She just stood there, clutching her phone like it might dissolve in her hand. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came. For a second, she looked like she was about to collapse. But instead, she nodded. Slowly, like she had known this moment was coming ever since she gave him the guest code. I understand, she said. That was it. No begging, no outburst, no empty promises to change. Just quiet acknowledgement. As if she was relieved that I had finally taken the wheel. We didn't speak the rest of that night. She went into the bedroom and closed the door. I stayed in the guest room, but I couldn't sleep. My eyes kept returning to the glow of my phone, to the folder I had created titled, Lock Evidence. Screensh *TS of the guest code entry. Photos of the receipt. The hoodie. The glasses. I snapped pictures of everything before she could clean it up or deny it existed. The next morning, I got dressed like it was any other Thursday and drove into downtown Denver. I didn't go to the hospital. I walked into a law office on 17th Street. An unassuming glass building with a polished lobby and the sterile scent of money. I'd found them online the night before. High ratings. Discreet. No billboard ads or "We Fight Dirty" slogans. That's not what I wanted. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clean lines. Quiet efficiency. Her name was Dana Patel. Mid-40s. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. She didn't offer small talk, and I appreciated that. I sat across from her and slid the flash drive across the table. She plugged it into her laptop without a word. I don't want alimony. I just want a split. Clean. No drama. I told her. And the house. Sell it. We split proceeds. Same with the accounts. Any children? No. She nodded, typing. That'll keep things simpler. But I'll warn you, if she's being blackmailed, and those videos exist, we may need to file something formal to protect your interests. I want no part of it, I said quickly. Let her handle it. It's her mess. She might try to pull you into it anyway. You're technically a victim if those recordings took place in your home. She didn't care what I was when she let him film it. That made her pause. Then she nodded again, softer this time. Understood. She gave me a list of documents I'd need to collect: account info, title deeds, retirement savings, anything with both our names on it. I asked about serving her. Dana said we could do it through a private process server, or I could deliver them myself. I chose the latter. 2 days later, I waited in the parking lot outside her clinic. I timed it with the end of her shift. She walked out in her scrubs, clutching her bag to her chest like armor. When she saw me, she stopped short. I'm not here to fight, I said. Just need a signature. I handed her the manila envelope. She took it without looking inside. I'll sign, she said, voice flat. I don't want this dragged out either. We stood in silence for a few seconds. Then she added, He's gone, Charlie. He left town. He hasn't contacted me since. I nodded. Doesn't change anything. I know. I walked away. I hired movers the next week. Came during the day while Megan was at work. I boxed up only what was mine. My books, my clothes, tools from the garage, some family heirlooms from my parents. I didn't take anything that could be argued over. No shared decor. No kitchenware. I didn't want any of it. Even the bed we once picked out together felt foreign. Tainted. The short-term rental I moved into was small. Barely enough room for my things. But it was quiet. Clean. And most importantly, it was mine. I called my parents that night. Told them everything. Not the blackmail part. Just that she had been unfaithful and we were divorcing. My mom was quiet. My dad didn't say much either. But I could hear their pain through the phone. You don't deserve this, my mom whispered. I know. Do you need anything? No, I said, glancing around the bare room. I've got what I need. Megan signed the papers a week later. No resistance. Her clinic placed her on administrative leave after she reported the recordings. Apparently, their legal team had to investigate whether she had compromised any patient data through her personal devices. I stayed completely out of it. She asked me once, through a text, if I'd give a statement to clear her from certain angles. I didn't reply. Whatever fallout came, she would handle it alone. The house went on the market shortly after. We chose a neutral realtor, split the costs, and avoided being in the same place during walkthroughs. We communicated only through email. Clean. Businesslike. There was nothing left to say. And then one morning a video leaked. Not to me. Not directly. But someone posted it anonymously on a website I'd never heard of, with just enough identifying detail to make it clear who the people were. It made its way through back channels. Eventually, someone in her department saw it. One of the dates on the video file. Our wedding anniversary. I don't know how I found out. Just a text from someone I hadn't spoken to in months. "I'm so sorry, man. That's brutal." I didn't reply, but I sat there for a long time, reading the date over and over again. She was in a hotel with him, filming things on the same day I'd been waiting at home with dinner and champagne, thinking she was working late. I'd even lit candles. That was the moment I knew there would be no reconciliation. No amount of therapy or healing would change what she had done. Charlie vanished. Left Colorado entirely. One of our mutual acquaintances said he had taken a job out of state. Nobody knew where. Nobody was surprised. The divorce was finalized in just under 3 months. No lawyers had to step in. The paperwork held. The house sold. The money split. The accounts closed. I signed the last form and walked out of Dana's office without shaking her hand. I just wanted to be done. And I deleted her number, blocked Charlie, left the shared group chats that still had old friends from our wedding. They'd figure it out, or they wouldn't. I didn't care anymore. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, eating takeout on a cardboard box because I hadn't bought a table yet. And for the first time in months, I felt still. Not good, not hopeful, but still. I'd stopped checking her socials. I stopped wondering what she was doing. Whether she was still dealing with fallout at work. Whether Charlie had resurfaced. It didn't matter. What mattered was what came next. I booked a therapy appointment. I didn't want to spiral into resentment. I didn't want to carry this into the next chapter of my life, whatever that was. I wasn't looking for someone to tell me I was the victim. I wanted someone to help me put down the weight I'd been dragging. I told the therapist everything. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I spoke like I was reciting someone else's story. "That's emotional shutdown," she told me gently. "Yeah," I said. "Feels easier. You'll have to feel it eventually. Maybe, but not yet." The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't the videos or the hotel receipts, or the lies carefully wrapped in justifications. It wasn't even knowing that while I was pouring energy into our marriage, Megan was pouring wine in hotel rooms with another man. No, the worst part was realizing how much of myself I had let erode for the sake of keeping things normal. After the divorce was finalized, I didn't throw a party. I didn't go out and get drunk or download dating apps or book a spontaneous trip to Europe. There was no big turning point, no tearful catharsis, just a quiet understanding that this was now my life, and it could either stay broken or I could rebuild it, piece by piece. The first thing I did was rent a 1-bedroom condo across town. Nothing fancy, just something functional with hardwood floors and plenty of light. It overlooked a small park and had a walking trail nearby. The landlord said it wasn't much, but for me it felt like a blank canvas. I unpacked slowly. I made coffee every morning, sat on the floor and opened boxes one at a time. I didn't rush. There was no one to hurry for. No schedule to synchronize with another person's routine. No judgment if I left dishes in the sink. The silence was jarring at first, but over time, I grew to appreciate it. Silence didn't lie. Silence didn't cheat. I got back into running. Not for goals or weight loss or revenge. Just to move. Just to feel something other than numb. I'd put in my earbuds, cue up an old playlist, one I hadn't listened to in years, and lose myself along the winding path near Sloan's Lake. It helped. It didn't fix me, but it helped. Therapy became a fixture in my week. Tuesday afternoons at 3 o'clock. My therapist, Jordan, was patient. She didn't push. She just let me talk. For the first few sessions, I kept things surface level. She asked how I was coping, and I'd give some vague answer like, taking it a day at a time. Eventually, though, she started asking better questions. When did you first start doubting her? What did you ignore? Why did you feel the need to rationalize it all? And the hardest one, what did staying say about how you saw yourself? I didn't have clean answers. I still don't. But I started to realize that Megan wasn't the whole story. She was the rupture, sure. But the erosion began long before Charlie. It started when I stopped checking in with myself. When I stopped asking if I was happy or just afraid of change. I had given her the benefit of the doubt so many times, even when things didn't make sense. Because I wanted it to work. Because I believed love was supposed to be unconditional. Because the idea of starting over felt like failure. But it's not failure to leave something that's already left you. That's something I had to learn. I started hiking again. I'd used to go every few weekends, before the marriage, before my weekends were filled with errands and couple brunches and social obligations I didn't want. I drove up to Estes Park one Saturday morning. Just me. A small backpack and a thermos of coffee. The air felt different up there. I hiked a quiet trail that snaked alongside a ridge. Nothing too strenuous. Just enough to get my heart pumping. About halfway up, I stopped and sat on a flat rock. No reception. No distractions. Just trees, sky, and silence. I let myself cry for the first time since I moved out. Not a breakdown. Just a steady stream of grief. For what I lost. For what I overlooked. For the version of myself I had to leave behind. It wasn't about Megan anymore. It was about me. I got home that evening feeling lighter. Not healed, but lighter. From there, things slowly started to change. I stopped replaying old conversations. I stopped checking if she'd posted anything online. I stopped wondering what she was doing or if Charlie had ever tried to contact her again. That wasn't my world anymore. I cut ties with mutual friends, not out of bitterness, but because I didn't want to keep one foot in the past. Some reached out. Others didn't. Stung at first, but I accepted it. Not everyone was meant to stay. I poured myself into work, but not as an escape. I started volunteering for surgical mentorship programs, helping younger residents through the growing pains of early practice. I liked being useful without being tied to personal drama. It reminded me of who I was before I'd made my identity so tethered to someone else. Then came the emails. About 2 months after the divorce was finalized, Megan started sending them. The first one was short. I hope you're doing okay. I miss talking to you. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't respond. The second was longer. She mentioned therapy. Said she was working on herself. Said she never stopped loving me. I didn't respond to that one either. Then she showed up. It was a Wednesday evening. I'd just gotten back from a run. My shirt was damp, keys still in my hand. I saw her car parked down the street and felt my stomach tighten. She was sitting on the bench near the trailhead. When I walked past, she stood up. "Alex," she said. I stopped but didn't approach. "You shouldn't be here." "I know. I wanted to see you. One last time." I didn't say anything. She looked thinner, tired, like life had finally caught up to her. "I know I broke everything," she said, "and I'm not here to ask for a second chance. I need you to know I've never felt more ashamed in my life. And not just because I hurt you, because I became someone I don't recognize." I looked at her, really looked, and I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel longing. I didn't feel anything. "Thank you," I said, "but that's yours to carry, not mine." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I understand." Then she left, and that was the last time I saw her. Since then, I've kept moving forward. One small choice at a time. I replaced old routines with new ones. Saturday mornings used to be laundry and errands. Now they're spent walking the park trail with a travel mug and no destination. I read more, cook more, sleep better. I've met new people, coworkers, neighbors, a few folks from a local hiking group. Nothing forced. No pressure. Just simple connections without the weight of old baggage. Dating? Not yet, but maybe someday. When I'm ready. When trust feels like a choice again, not a risk. If there's one thing this experience taught me, it's this. Love isn't enough without respect, without consistency, without integrity. And trust? It's not a blind leap. It's something you build, brick by brick, with actions that match words. Megan taught me that. Not by example but by contrast. I don't hate her. I don't wish her pain or karma or some dramatic downfall. I hope she becomes someone she can live with. Someone who doesn't lie to the people she claims to love. Someone who no longer needs secrets to survive. But her story is no longer my burden to witness. Mine continues here, quietly, honestly, with clear eyes and open space. Not looking back. Not this time. It's been almost a year now. 12 quiet, deliberate months since I walked out of that house for the last time. 12 months since I stood in a lawyer's office holding a pen that shook slightly in my hand before I signed away the last paper that tied me to Megan. A lot can happen in a year. You'd be surprised how much space opens up when your life isn't filled with white lies and second-guessing. When you no longer have to monitor tone, parse texts, or read too much into silence. When your home becomes a place of rest instead of suspicion. At first, the quiet felt hollow. I'd come home from work, drop my bag on the counter, and just stand there. No dinner plans, no small talk, no friction or warmth. Just a steady stillness I didn't quite know how to exist inside. But the stillness taught me something. Taught me how to sit with myself. How to separate being alone from being lonely. How to appreciate a night without distraction. A meal without compromise. A day spent doing things simply because they made me feel present, not because they filled time or kept the peace. My therapist once asked me, "What does peace look like to you now?" I sat with the question longer than I expected. Eventually, I told her, peace is locking the door at night and knowing no one is lying to me behind it. The silence without tension. It's laughter without effort. It's no longer hoping someone will change in order to love you right. That's what I've been building toward. Not a comeback. Not some dramatic rebirth. Just peace. I've grown in small ways. I started journaling. Something I never imagined I'd do. Each morning, I write one honest sentence about how I feel. No editing. No sugarcoating. Some entries are mundane. Others are hard to read even days later. But they're all mine. I've reconnected with old friends, one by one. People I hadn't realized I drifted from during the years I was trying so hard to keep my marriage looking healthy from the outside. Some welcomed me back easily. Others were more cautious. I respected that. Trust, once neglected, takes time to rebuild, even between friends. A few months ago, I got invited to a weekend hiking retreat by a coworker who knew I'd been slowly getting back into outdoor routines. I almost said no. I came up with 3 excuses before I caught myself. That old part of me, the part that avoided newness, that retreated into work and structure, still likes to whisper sometimes. But I said yes, and I'm glad I did. It wasn't life-changing. There was no movie-worthy epiphany on a mountaintop. But I met people, real people, people who talked about everything from trail gear to past mistakes to what music still makes them feel 17. There was one conversation I keep thinking about. A woman named Riley, early 30s, former teacher, now freelancing, asked me during a hike, "What did you unlearn the hard way?" I laughed at first, then gave her the most honest answer I could, that you can love someone deeply and still need to walk away. She didn't ask for context. She just nodded like she understood. We hiked in silence after that, the kind that doesn't feel awkward. I don't know if anything will come of that connection. I didn't press. We exchanged numbers, nothing more. And for once, that was enough. Because the version of me from a year ago, he would have chased validation. He would have tried to prove he'd moved on. He would have rushed to fill the void. The version of me now, he doesn't need to rush. I'm not interested in proving anything. Not to Megan. Not to mutual friends. Not even to myself. Healing isn't a straight line, but it does leave markers. Signs that you're moving forward even when it still stings. Like the first time you realize you haven't thought about them all day. Or when you see their name in a message thread and your heart doesn't skip. Or when you drive past the old neighborhood and feel nothing but neutrality. That's where I am now. Neutral. Not numb. Just neutral. I don't hate her. I've accepted that what she did was a choice. A series of choices, really. Some of them selfish. Some of them cowardly. Some of them just careless. But they weren't my responsibility to fix. I didn't cause them. I didn't deserve them. And I don't carry them anymore. She sent me one last message a few weeks ago. It was short. I hope you're doing well. I know I'm the last person who should say this, but I'm proud of how you handled everything. I never deserved that kind of grace. I read it once and archived it. Didn't reply. What was there to say? I don't need her validation. I don't need her guilt. And I certainly don't need her pride. I'm not proud of how I handled everything. I'm just proud that I didn't lose myself in the wreckage. You learn a lot about yourself when the floor drops out. You learn who you are when no one is watching. When there's no one to impress or protect or chase. You learn your rhythms, your non-negotiables, your actual preferences, not the ones you perform to keep someone else happy. And once you start choosing yourself, even in small ways, the foundation starts to come back. It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. But it's real. These days, my life is simple. I work. I run. I read. I cook more than I order out. I keep plants alive somehow. I take photos of clouds on my phone like a cliché. I laugh easier. I sleep better. Some mornings, I still wake up with a tightness in my chest. A shadow of the past, I guess. But it fades quickly, because I've built something new, something honest. It's not perfect, but it's mine. And now, when people ask how I'm doing, I don't say fine by default. I don't deflect. I say, I'm getting there, because that's the truth. Not healed, not broken, just getting there.